Welcome back to Season 6 of Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me in CB Studios down here in Nashville is my buddy Connor Casey.
Chiefs.
Janelle Wheel.
No team in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Here we go. Get it out now. Janelle Wheeler's over in her home studio.
Yeah, excited to be here. Ready to talk some news.
Acknowledgement. All right. And Matthew Aguilar is out of here. And the moment he is in the field doing some fun Disney stuff. So we know we like to get Matt out. He loves some wrestling, some Disney, stuff like that. So he's got a fun field assignment that he's doing today. So Matt, take a break. We got this one. All right. If you are just getting into the show, we got some program notes at the top. Once again, Comic Book Nation is a full-fledged nation these days, so we have a lot of bonus episodes. If you are not subscribed to Comic Book Nation on your podcast platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple, do so now. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page where we drop all kinds of bonus content that is pretty awesome. So this week alone, let's just go through what we have. We have the pull list where Matt pulls the biggest comics of the week and we break them down. We had Quick Start, our video game focus segment, talking about the epic, no pun intended, news that Disney is getting into bed with Fortnite and is about to change freemium gaming for possibly ever and multimedia licensing property. So that was a big topic to break down. So the Quick Start Gaming crew broke that down, but we also have not one, but two bonus episodes of Quick Start this week, covering and recapping the 2 episodes of Halo Season 2 that were released this week. So if you are watching Halo and you want to talk or hear us kind of break it down in full spoilers, go check out those 2 episodes of Quick Save as well. So that's everything we've done this week so far, and that's just plenty. So make sure you check out all 4 of those bonus segments in addition to this live show. All right, Janelle and Connor, we got a lot to do today. Just from the top, we are going to be getting into our non-spoiler thoughts about Halo Season 2 so far after the first 2 episodes. But wait, there's more. We got a bunch of news to get through because I thought this was going to be kind of a bare show. And then I started looking over things. And in the last 24 hours, there's been a lot that's happened. So yesterday was a big, busy day. Our other big topic of the day is Connor Casey is going to dig into the thing, which honestly has ruled my week. I was getting my oil changed in the garage. There were fights about this. The Rock has returned to WWE, and the world seems divided, and the reasoning is questionable. And so we are going to deep dive into all of that near the end of the show. All right, back up at top. Let's get it going. I'm tired of talking. My mouth's getting dry. Connor Casey, why don't you take us through the big first news items we are jumping into today?
First up, HBO is moving forward with an Aegon the Conqueror prequel series in the Game of Thrones universe, and it's got itself a writer. It's Mattson Tomlin. This guy got an uncredited role as a writer on The Batman a couple years ago. He has actually been bumped up to co-writer with Matt Reeves for The Batman Part 2. That was kind of his big breakout, was The Batman. He had done a couple of smaller projects.
He had
Project Power.
Project Power, yeah. I just wrote it. I just literally wrote his response to getting this job, which was a funny one. He said, I'm so looking forward to more low-key internet and interactions after this, which is hilarious. But he broke out with Project Power in 2020, but he's quickly become one of the hottest go-to writers. This guy is currently working. He got uncredited on The Batman to help them close out that film. He's writing The Batman 2. He's writing, and I saw him and kind of met him when he was on stage at Comic-Con doing the panel. He's writing Keanu Reeves' Berserker movie.
He wrote Batman the Imposter back in a couple years ago as a comic.
Yeah. And he also, he does more than just movies.
He's also attached to a Mega Man project.
Yeah, he was that was the first thing that started getting his name circulating is 2018. He was attached to a Mega Man project. Okay. Who knows where that is? But yeah, I mean, dude, and now he's got Game of Thrones under his belt. Yeah. So dude's definitely working with a lot right now. But this just confirms, I think, that HBO is really moving ahead speedily with these other Game of Thrones prequels, because there's this, and they're already in development or production on that the Hedge Knight, the Seven Kingdoms, about another Aegon Targaryen, which is going to get hilarious out here.
Which is not the Aegon Targaryen in the current House of the Dragon show. So to explain how this one works, because We kind of love repeating names in Game of Thrones. This is Aegon the Conqueror. This is the guy that in 2 years brought the 6 of the 7 kingdoms in Westeros together. Now, I know I'm putting on the nerd hat here for this one, but basically all of the events that you've seen in Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, hundreds of years prior to that, Aegon the Conqueror basically went Alexander the Great on everybody and got all of these regions to work together, with the exception of Dorne, because you never can get Dorne on
that was
side.
much later in a different,
very different,
in a different Aegon. But but he didn't just do it alone. It was him and his 2 sister wives, which, Targaryens, we won't get into all that, but we know how they roll. But it was his sister wives who were just as fierce as he was, and their 3 dragons. One of the surviving dragons is the one that what's your name?
The Black Dread.
Yeah, the Black Dread that we see in House of the Dragon, not Aegon 2, but his brother. That he killed Rhaenyra's
the one who accidentally kind of started off the whole thing in the season finale.
So that is like Balerion, or whatever the dragon's name is one of the surviving dragons of Aegon's time. So yeah, I wrote about this when they first said this was rumored to be happening. And I was like, yeah, this could be really good, because this is by far would be the most action-packed kind of epic Game of Thrones things yet. Because like you said, it's 2 years of going out, conquering the world, and forging these 6 out of 7 kingdoms together. And so like, yeah, that would be nuts. And I'm excited for that. And I'm kind of really excited for this. And then we got the Hedge Knights show that's about how Aegon 5 went out and was a squire, for Sir Duncan, and learned a whole different side of the world. So these could actually be really interesting, because you have House of the Dragon showing Aegon 2 being this kind of crazy monster. You have this Aegon series showing a different Aegon being a conqueror. And we don't know anything about this guy. I mean, we've heard descriptions of his personality, but there's so much room to flesh that out. And then we'll see one about an Aegon who became a more benevolent. And there's still possibly another series with another Aegon, which would be the Jon Snow sequel series if they ever decide to pick that up. So know your Aegons. And know them from your Egons. All right. So I think that's all we can get into with that. But I'm excited for this. Janelle, you excited about this?
Yeah, I wish they would have used different names. I wish they would have, because that's very confusing for someone like me who's a casual fan, who's never read the books. So
yeah, it gets nuts. And they sometimes just say Aegon. They don't always put the number by it. And so you're just like, wait.
Yeah.
Like literally the whole confusion at the end of House of the Dragon season 1 is the guy says Aegon, and you're like, wait, do you mean Prince Aegon, or do you mean this Aegon? And it's like, this is literally how a war starts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay.
Connor, you had another one.
I got one more. This one dropped in pretty late. Coyote versus Acme, which was a live action Roger Rabbit type hybrid. It was going to have John Cena. This one's getting shelved, guys. Warner Brothers Discovery initially said, hey, we're going to pull a Batgirl with this one and have it be a tax write-off. And then a bunch of people came out and said, actually, maybe try and just get someone else to host this. So they went to Paramount, they went to Amazon, they went to Netflix, and reportedly they had a much bigger asking price than what any of the streaming services were willing to comply with. So this thing is going to go the way of the dodo. And unless there's some very questionable leak in the future, you're probably never going to see this one, and it sucks. It's another terrible indicator for the industry. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I got the Batgirl thing on the level of, if you're going to be trying to like build this franchise out and where it was going, why you didn't want to jump into that. This seems like I'm super curious why they just didn't have faith in this one. Maybe the effects budget was like,
it's in our story. David Zaslav has not seen this.
Oh, okay. They just don't have faith in it, I guess. Because Chip and Dale didn't do well, or in that Tom and Jerry movie didn't do well.
I got nothing.
I'm super, man. I don't even know.
I need someone to still explain to me how the tax write-off part works. Yeah. I need a CPA to explain this.
It's a whole, I mean, I don't want to get too businessy, but like when you do this, it's a movie. So making a movie is always riddled with risk. And so such a high risk venture that you basically put in indemnifications that if something were to go wrong, if somebody dies, if the production burns down, something like this, you can recoup those losses as a tax write-off by doing it. But the key to this is you can't make a tax write-off. It's for a dead thing that you thought you were going to make. you thought you were going to make money off of, but for whatever reason, it became a quagmire. Somebody died. Like I said, you that's no longer feasible. And so you recoup some of your money. But yeah, the caveat is once you do that, you cannot make money off that property in any single kind of way, or you're going to get your ass sued to high heaven. And so like, yeah, it's basically just a death bell for everybody who was involved with the project. Like, and you can't do anything. The director can't do anything. The stars, you're like, I worked 3 years on this, and they're like, great, we own it, and we don't think it's going to make enough money, or it's not feasible anymore to market or whatever. We're going to write it off. And this happens quite more than we think. There are movies that just get shelved and written off. There are movies that get shelved and they don't know yet what to do with them. And then they wait. And then like a star becomes a bigger star. And then all of a sudden some Sydney Sweeney movie we've never seen. I think that's happening with her playing a nun in some convent. It's some movie they're pushing out. Who knows when she filmed that, right? And it's just like, yeah, but it is totally legal as long as you don't make money off of it ever and use any kind of merchandising in it. But this seems like it would have been an easy win in some form or fashion, streaming something, but I guess not. But I could also see the budget of it going kind of crazy and not coming together. But oh well, R.I.P. Coyote versus Acme. Moving over to the MCU, Janelle. We have some big news coming out that way.
Yeah, I have some fun news instead of sad news because I'm bummed about that as well. And it's about Daredevil. I feel like a lot of what I think it seems fun.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh no. All right. Listen, news is news. It makes me happy. So Born Again has finally has some leaked photos revealing like the first look of these costumes for Matt Murdock and Bullseye. I'm actually really curious what you think now because I actually like loved the look of Daredevil, but you know, Bullseye, I mean, Bullseye looks like Bullseye, right? Like nothing crazy. Now I'm confused. Tell me what's going on. Why don't we don't like them?
Well, first let me say just the first caveat that I don't react to set photos anymore.
No.
Okay.
I had to do this. I'm in my 16th, 17th year of doing this job, and like, yeah, I learned somewhere in the 2010s during the MCU and DCEU kind of ramp ups, like, don't go off set photos. We all start analyzing them. We're looking at the actor. We're like, oh, they don't look tall enough. They don't look this. They don't look that. It's a set photo. Like the whole reason we have movies and post-production is real life doesn't look like the movies. That's magic that they apply afterwards to make it look like a movie or a TV show. So you have to kind of wait for that. And you have to wait to see how it plays because you're seeing a full body thing, but a lot of those shots are not going to be full body, and they're not
also like color correction and like shooting angles
and
and
what your cinematography
proper lighting.
Like. Yeah, exactly. All of that. And so like, I don't mind it because it's part of the game. If you're filming outside, people are going to snap photos. Fans are eager. Some of them, a lot of them don't want to wait, and that's fine. But I just think you gotta take a proper critical frame on that and be like, okay, I know what I'm looking at. Here's the concept. Let's see what happens in the end. So I don't react, but the internet surely did react. And the biggest thing, and like the internet and like fanboys, the first thing that people have centered on and not let go of like a bone is that neither one of these costumes have logos on them. There's no DD for Daredevil and there's no Target for Bullseye. People have gone in and digitally added them saying it's so easy and all of this stuff. But again, like, guys, we don't know the production of this and the production plans. There could be logos that they add digitally because trying to film outside on location and make the logo show up right and do all that may not be as feasible. You may have to just go in and add digital coloring to it anyway in the end. So I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I'm just saying we don't know yet. It's a little early to freak out. Now, the Bullseye thing I get a little bit more because Bullseye typically does not have a costume that looks anything like what we're seeing in this. He doesn't wear a bunch of holsters and stuff, although I get it that this version of Bullseye would actually use more guns and stuff because why not? A comic book character is a comic book character, but yeah. But then again, like at the same time, again, set photos, number one, and number two, like if we all could get past the Colin Farrell version of Bullseye with a 2000s leather jacket, black shirt, and a weird scar in his forehead, Like, I think we can be okay with this and at least give Wilson Bethel, a person we've known to be a pretty awesome Bullseye, a chance to see what happens when he's cooking in this. Also, I'm not like too mad. I'm kind of adjusting to the fact that I want my MCU's TV shows to be TV shows, to be entertaining as TV shows, not cut up weird MCU mini movies. And so, like, if we have to do it on a more TV budget, like, yeah, Marvel Netflix still works for me. And
I
that definitely
agree.
has a budget.
That's a
So
great
I'm
point.
not going to freak out about this. Like, these should be movie level costumes. And what does that even mean anymore? Half the time we see movie level costumes and we're like, we don't like those either. So I was good with it as the basis. I'm curious to see what they do with the finished product.
I mean, to that point, I like some of Grant Gustin's Flash costumes better than the Ezra Miller looks. So
I
if we're talking movie
agree.
or television, there's a deep rabbit hole there of, hey, TV sometimes beats what the movies come up with. But as for this, my initial reaction to the Daredevil look was, to be honest, I've never liked any of the red suits they've put him in. The cloth Frank Miller one from the early Daredevil season 1, that looked fine. When they got him in the full red suit at the end of season 1, I was like, yeah, it looks fine in the dark, but when he's in the daylight, it just looks kind of awkward. And they never quite figured out how to get that right. And even the She-Hulk one where they threw in like the gold on there, it's like, nah, this doesn't work for me. But the point is that Daredevil almost is always working in low lit areas, so it doesn't matter as much. And you saw what we saw was a photo with someone with a big old flash taken at night. We have no idea what the staging looked like. We have no idea what the post-production stuff is going to add to it. So I completely dismissed it as, yeah, this is what it looks like without the miracle of modern filmmaking. And as for the Deadshot one, Bullseye. Sorry. Too many snipers in this industry. But as for the Bullseye one, like, how do we know that's not his final look? How do we know he doesn't build? What we saw was, this is what I was able to pull out of my closet, and it's going to evolve over time.
Yeah, even if it's not Bullseye, just a masked gunman who's not trying to be Bullseye right then. Like,
yeah,
that whole, if he's doing a job for Fisk or whatever, like if he's just an assassin and we don't know anything about him until Daredevil, like we don't know how this is all playing out.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bunch of interesting things to figure out, but the internet's going
to
internet.
Yeah, I feel like for me, just any news on something that I'm excited about dropping, it's in production, it's happening, that makes me excited. So I'm like, okay, I mean, they're out there, they're working on it, it's going. So
yeah,
that's why I call it happy news.
Guys, this is a Daredevil show now. It is not a legal procedural where we don't barely see Daredevil in the first 3 episodes. Let's all keep in mind where we've been before we get all mad about where we're going.
Even though I kind of want to see him do his lawyer stuff.
So do I, but
yeah,
that show sounded so whack that I'm glad it's dead. Speaking of things that are also kind of possibly dead, Janelle.
Yes. This was leading me to our next point of news. So multiple Marvel movies were missing from the Disney CEO's theatrical schedule, which is, again, one of those things where I'm kind of freaking out because I'm very excited about Blade. This past week, there's been a lot of announcements about all the things that are coming up to release in 2025. This includes all of the Marvel projects that they're excited about, as well as Zootopia, Avatar 3. They even went into 2026 with Frozen 3 and Toy Story. I don't know why we need these, but whatever. There are Moana, just tons of stuff. And what they highlighted was Captain America, Brave New World, and then Fantastic Four for Marvel. But there was no mention of Blade, which super freaked me out, and Thunderbolts, which I think a lot of fans are kind of going, wait, these were set for like 2025. Why is this not even being talked about? So that's kind of sus at the moment.
I was on that Disney investors call because we have to be, and it was more than that. Bob Iger straight up just said in the clearest that Bob Iger tends to ever get, which was like, yeah, things have changed. Like, there are things we didn't think we were going to push. Now we're pushing those. Like, there were things we thought we were going to push. We ain't pushing those no more. And there were things that might just die off. And yeah, you're going to have to deal with it, basically. Because I think that, Bob Iger's come in and Kevin Feige and kind of gotten back with Kevin Feige, and they're back to just erasing this Chapek era of let's throw everything at the wall. It's big franchises, big characters, big things that are going to make big money. And if they don't have confidence in that, they're not putting money behind these projects. I'm curious if Blade's going to survive anymore. We've heard so much of a mess with what should have been a very simple series or a simple movie concept. Blade, now in the MCU. MCU Supernatural was already getting built out by Werewolf by Night and stuff. Awesome, double Oscar-winning actor as Blade. What's not to love, right? We cracked this code in 1998. But, you know, Marvel, again, it just seems like we've complicated so much stuff for the sake of complicating stuff or trying to do twists on traditional stories. And I don't think that's where Bob Iger's going.
No.
I think Bob Iger's going back to the big things or figuring out how to make certain Marvel properties into big things that sell big tickets. So I don't think, I'm worried about Blade. And even though it was so far down the pipeline, I'm worried about Thunderbolts because it sounds like it was just going to be kind of a weird Suicide Squad movie to set up some big reveal at the end, like Centuries here or something like that. And it was supposed to be like a game changer for the MCU right after Captain America. So I'm very curious about what they're going to do with that now, because that's a lot of people to pull together. And if they're not confident in it, or they're not confident in the director, the script, whatever.
See, my thing with Thunderbolts was, you're right. It did feel like, let's try and hop on the Suicide Squad train because James Gunn made it cool again. But it also was threaded by a lot of subplots in the different Disney Plus series. And maybe that's what they're trying to get away from, to where they went, you know what? We don't need all these actors in this big team up movie from a bunch of shows that underperformed. Let's push aside. As for the Blade one, to quote the great Wesley Snipes, some mofo's always trying to be ice skating uphill. I'm not okay with it, because that seemed like such an obvious layup.
They started setting it up at Eternals, like we're already there.
It's simple. Daywalker, fighting vampires, maybe Werewolf by Night shows up. Very easy. And we got it right twice in an era when you did not get superhero movies right. I don't know why this is a struggle.
And fit it in the universe, you already did it. Partner him with a guy who has a blade that can drink souls and see where that leads you and make it a MacGuffin. So now it's not just Blade. He's got to protect goofy, non-combatant guy who has important sword and ends up becoming Black Knight by the end. Like, seems pretty easy to me. I don't know. I'm getting tired of the MCU,
that's
guys.
The second.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm getting tired of the MCU.
That is the second time MCU has fumbled Mahershala.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know. But I'm getting tired of this, man. Like, this whole franchise is just getting tiring at this point. It's been like I feel like there hasn't been a real MCU franchise since Endgame. It's just been a lot of mess. Nothing like really solid to hang my hat on. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did watch Marvels. I streamed Marvels last night, and I will say I had a great time. And even my husband was like super into it. It got such a bad rap, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, such a fun film, but
murdered in the editing booth was my takeaway.
Again, they can't decide to make like just a fun film. It was like it's got to be 50 other things. Like, so yeah, I'm kind of getting tired of the MCU, and I think everybody's hanging their hat this year on Deadpool 3, and if Deadpool 3 ain't Deadpool 3 we are all imagining, I'm kind of out, man. I'm gonna be kind of out. I know nobody cares about that. It doesn't affect a single dollar, but I'm just telling you, because I feel like I won't be the only one. All right. Thought this was going to be a happy segment, Janelle.
Gosh darn it. Hey, I won't be out. I'm an MCU lover, ride or die. So
all right.
There's your happy.
Yeah, give me that Young Avengers. Just bring it back. Bring me something happy.
Dude,
bring me Young Avengers that we can just again with. We need
so ready for that.
Here's something to make everybody happy. Grenade. If you've never watched this show in a long time, we like to throw grenades, surprises.
I love this. Yo, when you link
this one is for you, Connor Casey, going into Super Bowl week, since you're feeling yourself so much. Christopher Nolan has come out as a fan of the Fast and Furious series. My man not just said he's a fan of the Fast and Furious series. He said, forget those first two. It's the mythology one that I love. Start with Tokyo Drift and lock in. Christopher Nolan, king of cinema. Fast and Furious, man. How you feeling as a man who praised Oppenheimer and crapped on Fast X?
You you act like I'm surprised. Like I've read Christopher Nolan interviews. This guy likes the goofy stuff. I actually looked this one up because this dude famously loves James Bond. And if you watch Inception, that's kind of his answer to what a James Bond movie would be. He was actually asked fairly recently, what are his favorite Bond films? Do you want to know what his picks were?
Yeah.
'Twas on Her Majesty's Secret Service, so the one Lazenby movie.
Yeah, Lazenby. Good pick.
And The Spy Who Loved Me, Roger Moore. Not the, hey, let's just adapt the books, Sean Connery, not the super serious Daniel Craig stuff, which honestly started to ape Nolan's style a little bit as those went along. No, he likes the goofy stuff. This dude likes camp. This dude likes ridiculous action. This dude likes spectacle. Now,
Welcome to the club.
when he takes it in his own direction, which is nonlinear and blah and gray. But yeah, this dude, Nolan contains multitudes. I wasn't surprised. I saw the label on the run sheet. You're like, grenade. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
So you ready to put some more respect on Fast and Furious's name?
On some of them, not Fast X.
On that franchise's name.
I like Fast
Tokyo
5,
Drift is my
7.
favorite, so I loved that he's like start there. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I thought this was hilarious. I was just thinking about film Twitter having an aneurysm over the fact of all the people who are like, because this summer was perfect. It was like Oppenheimer's, Nolan, this is movies, Fast X. Screw this isn't movies. And I'm like, I'm always here. When Fast X opening day comes, it's like, it might be an annual parade, like for me, an annual cultural parade. I'm going in with all my fast heads. I'm turning my brain off. I'm getting that popcorn and baby.
Didn't Nolan say he saw Barbie and loved it?
Yeah, I mean,
I imagine that.
No. I think, that was during Barbenheimer, but I would expect that. But hearing him actually just because there's a video to it, and he fans out. He gets into it. Like he's really breaking down Fast and Furious movies, and I think that's the best thing because film Twitter sucks so bad, and like you guys. And this is just I like to see things because then it gets real quiet out there when this happens.
Crickets.
Like, oh, I love Nolan. Everything he says is great. Oh, he likes Fast and Furious. I don't know how to react to that. I have so many past tweets crapping on Fast and Furious. I don't know what to do here.
This man made a Batman trilogy, guys. Get with it.
Yeah. So put some respect on Fast and Furious's name. That's the grenade. All right. Moving along. And we have no idea what's happening with that franchise, by the way. No idea what's happening with that. So we're going to get at least a couple more.
We might actually have a follow-up to that subject later on in this episode.
Yes, we will.
Ooh.
All right. So let's go over into the trailer park. It's Super Bowl weekend this weekend, and we didn't have like too much to do there. I don't know how many of these trailers we're going to, maybe back on Monday or something for a bonus.
Can we talk about Patrick Stewart
that'd be fun.
going, Hey Arnold, up the side of a cliff while Creed plays?
Oh, yeah, that Paramount commercial is, the Paramount Plus commercial for this year is epic. If you have not seen it, and this is not just us hawking the company product, it stopped everything in comic book Slack when it came out because everybody on the job had to stop and be like, wait, what am I seeing? It is hilarious. They go back to that Up the Mountain theme, which is the Paramount Plus thing. But they get, Drew Barrymore, Patrick Stewart, SpongeBob, Hey Arnold. But I think, isn't there an athlete in there?
Tua Tagovailoa is in there. Peppa Pig is in there.
Peppa Pig's in there. Yeah. And they're all trying to figure out how to get up the mountain. And it goes really off the rails bananas by the end.
Love that.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart saying throw the child is now that's cinema to me. Throw the child. But it is a fantastic. It is so far, I think, my favorite big game spot so far. So we may be back on Monday or something to kind of just break down what happened in the Super Bowl reveals we got, but that's not now. I got to get through today. What we have already that we want to talk about is a couple trailers coming from the Paramount camp. First up is A Quiet Place Day 1. Guys, man, I got to say, as this series goes on, it is growing on me as one of my favorite horror franchises, maybe of all time. Like it is so good. Like what John Krasinski has built with this franchise, how part 2 kind of built on part 1 and was so like thrilling and compelling in such different ways than part 1 was. Because part 1 had a lot of the gimmick with the quiet and all that, but part 2 had almost like Hitchcockian perfection of tension, split storylines and all this stuff. This is the thing I think we've all been waiting for as the big, because this started us with more of an indie vibe. And now this is the kind of the movie that's going to get into the meat and potatoes of it. What happened in this invasion in a place like New York City? And this trailer, I really enjoyed this trailer, mostly because it clearly understands that it's not the monster mayhem that's really going to sell this. It's the strength of actors like Lupita Nyong'o and Jaimon Hanzu, who is the connective thread with part 2, obviously, in this. But yeah, this looks like a Lupita showcase, and I am always here for that. There's already just shots and scenes in this trailer that I know are going to stick with me, like her passed out with the dust all over her face and waking up, and just seeing humanity get full on invaded. It already looks like those sequences alone are going to be kind of just really great. I mean, I loved the kind of opening sequence in part 2 that showed us what it was like for Krasinski's family in their small town on day 1, but this is like whole other level of sequence. So what'd you guys think of this trailer?
This is going to be a slaughter. This is going to be brutal, and I'm all for it. And I was like, the Quiet, I'm not the biggest horror guy, and The Quiet Place is one of those where it's like, oh, I'm going to be tense through this whole thing, aren't I? And I am. But you got Jaimon, you got Lupita, 2 great actors who are going to anchor this thing. I'm all for it.
Janelle, because you are always iffy about horror.
Yeah, well, I love post-apocalyptic, and because of like Walking Dead stuff, and I love alien stuff, spacey stuff. So like it's such a beautiful combination of all of those things and horror that this is the type of horror that gets me like really excited. When I watched this, I was watching it on my phone, and halfway through it, I was like, you know what? This isn't doing it justice. And I moved to my laptop to watch it on a bigger screen because I was just living for it. And I actually talked about this in my stream, and I was trying to tell people how excited I was. I had a few naysayers. I had quite a few people that were like, it's boring. I like real horror. Like this isn't even, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, because this looks so frightening and so rewarding for anyone who has been watching these. And, like obviously what you said, like seeing that an original family and dealing with it like in the woods, but holy crap, what happens when it all just hits the fan? Like I'm so excited. I'm more excited about this than like Deadpool at this point.
No, I need a good big budget and really good horror film, because I feel like it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Because I've seen like okay ones, but a really good one has been a minute. And so I am really looking forward to this. Like, just so much. Yeah.
Pumped.
All right. I don't want to gush too much about it, but like you said, I think we hit all the big points. But yeah, I was the same way. I was like, as soon as this trailer started, I was like, yeah, I need to be in a theater for this one. Like, this ain't going to be like a streaming for me.
Absolutely.
I need to see, having lived in New York and things like that, I want to see sequences and all that kind of, the iconic stuff. But, woof, yeah, this is the franchise right here, baby.
I mean, even the trailer, my heart is like pounding out of my chest watching this.
Yeah, like there's just such good things, like that scene under the car we just watched. If you're watching the live show, like in like a lot of movies, it would be just the guy trying to pull her out from under the car while the monster's trying to get him. And this one, they take it up a notch, because even when you're scared about that, then all of a sudden the car itself starts collapsing on her. And I'm claustrophobic as hell, so that was
me too.
I was like, oh my god, that is like my nightmare. And I was just like, oh Lord. So yeah, I think we're just kind of we're just going over it in circles. But I'm really enjoying the franchise. And this looks like it could be a really good, and a chapter that really blows this whole thing wide open into like the larger story of what's going on, like that Walking Dead episode 6 type deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we still have part 3, because part 2 definitely left us in a place where this could all come back around to whatever happens in this movie really being a factor in part 3, whether it's Lupita's character or whatever it is. So looking forward to that. All right, Matt's not here, but we had to keep his spirit alive today, and I had to highlight 2 big spin-off series from very popular children's franchise. I got an 8 and a 5-year-old, so I know both of these are always streaming on Paramount Plus in my house. So the first thing we had up was Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is the continuation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So when that movie came out, a movie that I think we all were pretty impressed by, and, screw the Oscars for not recognizing that. But we also knew soon after that Mutant Mayhem was getting a sequel, but also a TV series that continued where that movie left off, with the Ninja Turtles being kind of exposed to the public, welcomed into a New York high school, and starting to live like real teenagers. So this series picks up with that storyline. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised because I didn't know what format it would take, because Mutant Mayhem was such a unique look, and I knew they weren't going to replicate that.
They can't.
Right.
They can't. So in an animated series, but I was pleasantly surprised by the look and design of this. It still feels like it captures that zany kind of teenage energy of the movie, and in a kind of animated series that looks almost like a comic book, but in a comic book I would think fits this universe. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by this, and I'm kind of excited to kind of continue with this version of Ninja Turtles. Connor, what'd you think?
I was shocked that I think we're about to go for 3 straight really good Turtle series, because we have the mid-2010s, Rise, and now this.
Yeah.
Kids are eating good now, because we had to wait back in my day. We had you had to find the reruns of the really old ones or wait for the 2003 one to get good.
Yeah.
So this looks awesome. Love that the voice cast is back. Love that they were able to transfer the animated series from the movie, the animation style, into something that's I got to assume a little bit easier to recreate and make more episodes out of. This look, I finally got around to watching Mutant Mayhem a few weeks ago. Loved it. I'm on board for this.
I know you're also just like horror. You could be
hit or miss on. I mean, but this is like, it is what it is. This is like a kid's thing, and it's cute, and obviously nostalgia for me because I grew up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So anything, on the lines of that, this just feels so purely Nickelodeon, and I love that. It feels like a throwback from my childhood, and the voice actor sounded great, and it actually got me wanting to go to stream the movie because I haven't seen it.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
You gotta stream that. It's
I know.
good.
I'm going to, because of this
gotta
trailer. So they did a great
soundtrack
job.
Alone, you're gonna be like, oh my god, you were a 90s hip-hop kid. This soundtrack alone.
Yes. I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. To be able to see Mutant Mayhem first again.
You will never order a bacon, egg, and cheese the same way again.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Finally, for this first half of the show, we had the trailer for Knuckles, the spinoff from the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which now define my son's childhood. He is a massive Sonic fan. So to get him to behave last night, I said, look, buddy, if you behave, I got a surprise for you. And he was like, oh, so he was on his best behavior. Finally, he was like, what's the surprise? And I played this trailer for him, and he was just like, he was just froze. He was so excited. He can't wait for April to get here. Yeah, kids love this Sonic movie series, which is admittedly, having been forced to watch them a half dozen times each, it's one of the better video game adaptations I've seen. So
I don't know what surprises me more, that they got Idris Elba back for the series, or that they used Nuck If You Buck for the freaking trailer,
which was
brilliant. So awesome.
I couldn't believe that. When that started playing, I was like, no, you didn't. Nuck If You.
So awesome.
No idea. I'm like on the floor cracking up. I'm like, oh man. Everybody's one of the South's favorite 2000s drive-by songs now in a Knuckles trailer. We've come so far. Oh boy. But Sonic Universe is great. Kids love it. And my homeboy, I always forget this actor's name. I think it's Adam something. But he's the guy from Iron Man 3 and stuff. He's great. And this just looks like it's gonna be a ton of fun again. And I even like the villain they got, and they put some budget into the series. The character design and everything still look up there with the film. So yeah, I'm enjoying Sonic. It's stupid fun. The kids love it. And this Knuckles spinoff looked great because Knuckles deserves a spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that.
And we're literally getting Sonic 3 and Knuckles in the same year.
Yep. So
everything that's old is new again.
Paramount is not sleeping on this franchise, nor should they, because I swear to God, if my son keeps asking me when Sonic 3 gets here, I'm going to flip out. All right. That's our Paramount showcase. Like I said, after the Super Bowl, I'm sure we're going to have more to talk about in terms of media, trailers, and all of that. So we'll see about getting in here next week and doing that. We are going to take a break, a very overdue break. But when we come back, our big items of the week are going to be our Halo 2 review and breaking down this WWE situation with The Rock. Be sure to return for that. promotions, the NFC. Here we are reflecting as we go into the Super Bowl on the 2023-2024 NFL that left a lot of gamblers broke, except or low paid because everybody thought this KC's thing was happening. But getting back to our show, our main topic of the day is Halo. The Halo live action TV series is back for season 2 on Paramount Plus. And as I said at the start of the show, if you're looking for a more spoiler-filled kind of breakdown of episode 1 and episode 2 that were both released on Thursday this week, we have them in our quick save show segment. Go on the podcast feed or go on the Comic Book Nation YouTube page and join us for those discussions. This is just our review of Halo Season 2. So far, I wrote the review for Comicbook.com. I think we ended up with a 3.5 out of 5 score for it. And then I titled the review Better Equipped for the Fight because that's how I feel about Halo Season 2. It was actually shocking to go back and as I started to watch the Season 2 screeners, I got 4 episodes. And I went back afterwards to go look at Season 1. It is shocking how much different this season really is. You forget what the hollow green screen sets felt like in Season 1, how convoluted the story was with Master Chief and Cortana and McKay and her as the Blessed One. We had a whole like insight into the Covenant and through her and all that. And then Quan and Soren, which they dropped Quan like in episode 7 when I looked back. She was dropped near the midpoint of the series and never showed up again until this season. And so it was a mess. And like, I know we were just getting Halo for the first time in live action, but yeah, after seeing these first 4 episodes and looking at that, it is clear what a big jump there was. Not just in the usual things you would expect from like production, budget, all of that, but just the writing, the creative direction, the kind of obvious slim down and more considered focus per episodes is vastly improved. That said, I don't think Halo is still perfect. I still think it drags in places. I still think there's almost too much in the show still, even though if they can bring it all together, and I don't want to spoil anything, I think that will be better as the season goes along. But I do come away feeling like this is a completely different show from what we got in season 1 and in a good way. I thought the season 2 premiere was a very much a statement from, new showrunner David Weiner, who wrote that episode, and what they just kind of put you into and how quick it is. It's like, no, guys, we're not playing around this season. Like, we're going to give you Halo action. We're going to give you intrigue. We're going to give you some thrills and mysteries and things like that. It's going to be focused. It's going to feel like a TV show.
Yeah.
And this does that. I also love that the Spartan Silver team, they realize, oh, these can't be like just weird background characters. That they made the kind of Spartans the center of the show and gave every actor in that 4-person ensemble more spotlight, because for me, that's been the strongest difference is the team. It's not Master Chief talking to himself and Cortana and all that. It's the dynamics between this team and picking characters that kind of stood out to me in the first season, like Kai, Vanek, Riz, and especially in episode 2, you see how this show can be propelled, because episode 2, there is no real action sequences. There's no fights. There's no conflict. It's very much a status quo moving of the pieces episode, but I found it very compelling and interesting as an episode and the way it's paced, from a mystery we get at the beginning that kind of progresses throughout the episode to the interpersonal drama that kind of carries it. So it's better. It's still not perfect, but I think that it is a worthier adaptation of Halo, at least for me.
Yeah, I listened to the reviews you and Matt did on QuickSave, and you're absolutely right that when Silver Team is on screen and they're playing with those dynamics, the show actually works. When it's anything else, I quickly lose interest. There's a lot of bloat in this show and a lot of unnecessary tangents where I just go, can we just get back to Master Chief, please? And what's funny is I started season 1 back when it first dropped because, hey, I grew up with Halo. I was the perfect age for it. Halo 3 on Xbox 360 was an event in my upbringing. And I remember thinking season 1 and just being like, "Nah, this ain't working at all. I'm out." And with season 2, like you said, the step up in overall quality is immediately apparent. But I eventually came to terms with what this show is, and it's Fox/Netflix's Lucifer. It is, here is the absolute bare minimum connection to the original source material. With Lucifer, it's, hey, Satan leaves hell, starts a bar. The actual show is a cop procedural, had nothing to do with the comics. Halo, the games are about an entirely different thing. The show has Master Chief, it has the Spartans, it has names like the Reach and the Covenant and the Elites. But outside of that, it's kind of a futuristic cop procedural again, where it's just, hey, there's a military group, there's some espionage, some intrigue, some backdoor dealings that they don't know about fully. And if you're sitting there hoping for, okay, we're on Reach, the Covenant showed up on Reach. Well, if you know what happened to Reach, you know that could be very bad. I have no confidence that they're actually ever going to get to that. I'm still waiting for them to get to the Halo rings. I'm waiting for the Flood to finally show up. Is that cave painting Gravemind? I don't know, but I'm not going to wait 2 more seasons to find out. So this for what this is, it's okay.
I can say that, and I know because they gave us the batch of 4 episodes for a reason, and tell you that there is going to be a definite 2-part arc to this season. And I can tell you that unlike season 1, no, we are not going to be waiting forever for some pretty big, drastic things to happen. That, yeah, the pace of the season will be much different. But again, not free of all the problems you're discussing, but I know that the pacing and what is set up after the 4 episodes will be, I think, pretty compelling to a lot of fans. So, Janelle.
Yes.
I'm always curious about your stake and your kind of relationship with Halo in general.
Yeah. Well, I played Halo a lot in college. It was like a moment. I was terrible at every weapon except for sword and shotgun. So it's killing me that, like, yeah, I'm like, man, why won't they just pick up the sword and use the sword? Please, just pick it up. Just pick up the sword. That's all I can think of. But I only watched the first 2 episodes as well. And so with those 2 first episodes, I will say, like, 1 kind of hooked me more than 2. There is a lot of interesting lore that maybe I didn't gather from the game. I never played the entire game through. I always would just get in lobbies.
You don't have to do this. Nobody knows the story of Halo.
Okay.
Only the hyper nerds who read the books and all the expanded stuff are the only people who know. The rest of us played that game for years and have no idea. Shoot Covenant, shoot Flood. 2 things you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, I definitely, there are times then that I feel a little lost. Like, I'm like, so what is the point of all this? Like, what is actually happening? Why are they doing certain things? But overall, like, I think the action is super fun. I love this actor. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. He played Klaus in Vampire Diaries, and I loved him in that. And he was also in Titans.
Yeah, he's Joseph Morgan. Yeah.
Joseph Morgan. Thank you. Gosh, I can't believe I forgot his name. Love him. I love him so much. He's such a good villain. He is so stinky, and I just love him. He's so good in that role. It does feel like the story kind of like hops all over the place, but not so much where I don't, it's not like I don't understand what's happening. So I'm just hoping that, like you said, in the next couple of episodes, everything kind of threads together a little bit more.
Yeah, there are some pretty impressive action bits coming our way.
Oh yeah,
you can see that in the trailer. It's not a spoiler.
Yeah, I look forward to this.
Images, you see things, something like you can see that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 style fight that's in a hallway and things like that. There's some impressive action in here, much more impressive than what we got in season 1. So all in all,
it was interesting. I watched this and Marvels in the same day, so I'm starting to get a little convoluted. Like, I'm like, wait, what happened here? Did that happen in No, that didn't.
So Master Chief broke out into song. He wore a fabulous
He's really a princess on another planet.
Lanes before they collapsed. I forget. But real quick,
like a fleeing section though. They both were fleeing from a demolished planet situation. So that was interesting.
Real Would you guys, based on what you've seen in these 2 episodes, would you, if people who are on the fence, who are like, okay, I gave season 1 a chance, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm jumping in for season 2, would you recommend it?
If you're telling me that there's more coming in these next couple episodes that'll keep me hooked, I'll stick around. But I think for common Halo fans, a lot of them wrote off season 1 for a variety of reasons. And all the promise of season 2, hey guys, we got a new showrunner. We're taking a different focus with this now. It looks better. That might get some of them back in, but unless you say the flood is finally here, they're on the rings. We're dealing with Covenant. We're getting to some of, while the story, you're right, is not well followed, there are certain set pieces where people go, oh, I remember that. I want to do that. I want to see that in live action. When you go and tell someone, hey, the flood finally showed up, that's going to get people to come in. So if you're telling me something like that's on its way, I'm not saying it's necessarily the flood. I don't know. I haven't seen the other 2 episodes. If you tell me something like that's on the way, I will absolutely stick around, and I know more people will too.
All right. Janelle, did you say?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Because here's the thing: there's no harm in just at least trying this first episode of season 2, and seeing if it intrigues you at all. I felt like there was definitely like intrigue. There's definitely like your heart's kind of like stopped. For me, it was a vibe. Like the first episode was totally a vibe. So I would definitely go for that one. If you like it, then go into the second episode, but also don't judge it too much, because I really feel like you kind of need the third. I feel like the second episode wasn't as strong.
Oh yeah. I mean, it'd have been interesting if they gave us 3, but I get they're trying to spread out the weeks.
Right. Of course.
All right. So that's it for Halo. It's on Paramount Plus, currently streaming. You can again check out our full spoiler-filled recaps over on our quick save segment. And that's in the Comic Book Nation feed. Brywood, loyal fan to the show. Brywood, yes. While we were having that discussion, Jurassic World, the next Jurassic World movie, lost its director. David Leitch, who did Deadpool 2, was signing on to do the next Jurassic World movie, but he was like, nah, creative differences. I don't like what you guys going on, and you don't like what I'm talking about, so he's out. All right. I don't care, because I don't need this series to continue at all.
I didn't even bother with the last one. Y'all made the movie about locusts. It's a dinosaur movie. Come on.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. All right, but that happened. Now, turning to our final segment of the day. Connor, like I said, this is a thing that has rung out in the streets the loudest for me this week, is everybody cannot figure out, come to any agreement on The Rock's big return to WWE. If you have been living under a rock, The Rock showed up to interrupt a kind of pivotal showdown between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns.
May I kind of give everybody the
recap? You do it.
Since the last week, we were still talking about the Vince McMahon stuff. None of this had dropped yet. All of this has happened within the last 7 days. So let me kind of give you the cliff notes as to what's going on and why some folks are mad. So 2 years ago, Cody Rhodes comes back to WWE, and he makes his first big announcement the night after he returns at WrestleMania. He says, I am here for one reason, and it is to win the WWE Championship, a title my father never got to hold. And it became the tagline. He would finish the story. Now, that led to WrestleMania 39 last year. He won the Royal Rumble. He earned a shot against Roman Reigns. And by all accounts, it seemed like he was finally going to be the one to end Roman's record-setting run as champion. He gets cheated out of the match in the final moments. He loses. He is then immediately pulled into a feud with Brock Lesnar. Roman gets to go off and continue his part-time schedule. And people are holding out hope that there would be a rematch between Cody and Roman at this year's WrestleMania, being WrestleMania 40, a big round number Mania event. So they try to make these ones a little bit bigger than if this were WrestleMania 36 or something. So Cody wins this year's Royal Rumble, being one of the very few people to ever win the 30-man match 2 years in a row. He ends the pay-per-view by pointing at Roman Reigns, who is sitting up in one of the skyboxes, and just keeps shouting, you, it's you. And everyone takes that as, oh, So we're getting the rematch. Cody gets to quote unquote finish his story. They even put Cody on the cover of WWE 2K24 and have the tagline of the video game be about finishing the story. They're making this all so obvious that Cody versus Roman is going to happen, and they're excited. People are legitimately thrilled to see this because they have been following this story for a couple of years now, and it involves the biggest bad in the company and a legitimate top babyface, the number one guy that everybody wants to cheer for. Very simple. Last Friday, they decide to throw in some curveballs. Cody, having listened to Seth Rollins' argument for why he should challenge him for his title instead, even though a lot of the arguments didn't really hold water, Cody arrives on SmackDown. He looks at Roman Reigns and says, I still want your title. I still want to take everything from you, but I'm not going to do it at WrestleMania. And then he figuratively and literally bows out as The Rock arrives to seemingly give us Roman Reigns versus The Rock, a match that has been talked about since 2015 and rumored for the past 3 or 4 years of actually being a reality. Fans didn't take that very well. They thought that Cody looked like an absolute idiot for just being like, yeah, I could have the match with Roman, but I'm just going to let The Rock fight my battles for me instead. Both championships, the Universal title and the World title, got buried in the process through comments made by both champions. And Cody's decision to be like, yeah, I could go for Seth's title, but I don't really care about it. But I'm also not going to go for Roman's title because fill in the blank, we don't get an answer. By Saturday, We Want Cody is trending to the point where I believe they got to 1 million tweets on a day where no wrestling was happening. Fans were losing their freaking minds about this. I see polls on Twitter where they're asking, which match do you want to see more? Do you want to see Cody versus Roman, or do you want to see Rock versus Roman? It was like 80-20 Cody Roman. This was overwhelmingly going against what should be an obvious dream match. And no one was mad that Rock versus Roman had been announced.
They were just disappointed.
They were disappointed in the fact. Here's the thing. They were mad at the fact that it came at the expense of a guy that they had gotten invested in. Devoid of all context, Rock versus Roman, no one's got a problem with it. It's that you had to make your number one babyface look like an idiot in the process. That was the backlash to it. So then Cody shows up on Monday on Raw, doesn't really get a chance to explain his actions, doesn't explain why the sudden change of heart, why give his shot to The Rock. He has a bull rope match with Shinsuke Nakamura. He wins. We go off the air. No one's got any more answers to this whole thing. But they announce a press conference in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, and they say that of the people who are going to be there, The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. So we all look at this show last night. It was live streaming on Peacock. It was live streaming on YouTube. And all fans are suddenly like, okay, this is how we're going to get an answer. If they're going to change directions, this is where they got to do it. If they're going to stick with what they're apparently trying to do with Rock versus Roman and Cody off twiddling his thumbs in the corner, then they got to listen to the fans not be very happy about it in live action. So we get to the show itself. Seth comes out first, says, hey, I'm kind of tired of being the one stuck in the middle of all of this. I want Cody to come out here and explain his actions. But Cody doesn't come out. Roman Reigns comes out instead, and he says, you know what? I'm just going to pick The Rock as my opponent. Completely ignoring the fact that on last SmackDown, by all indications, he didn't want to fight The Rock. Because Roman's whole thing this entire time has been, I'm the tribal chief. I'm the head of my family. And that has always rung hollow when someone else in your family is one of Hollywood's biggest actors. Then that math ain't mathin'. So at some point, there was going to have to be a collision between the two. Out comes The Rock. After being on Pat McAfee earlier in the day and calling the fans that were rallying against Rock versus Roman, he had labeled them the Cody Crybabies. He then cuts a promo. The crowd is incredibly mixed to a surprising degree. Rock basically says, hey, if you don't like Rock versus Roman being the main event of WrestleMania 40, I don't care. And he then proceeds to pull up a PowerPoint presentation of his family tree showing how many generations of pro wrestling stars have been in his family and how this story goes back generations. Doesn't really, but it works for this story. Cody then comes out, basically ignoring what happened last Friday and saying, no, sorry, Rock, but I want Roman. He then invokes elder family members of the Anoa'i family, which sets Rock off and pulls a Will Smith. He says, keep my family's name out your bleeping mouth, slaps Cody, pull apart, that's it. Triple H then puts up a logo that says, hey, Cody made his decision. So as of right now, it is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Where the hell does The Rock fit into this? Why was poor Seth Rollins even there? We don't have answers. But Kofi, you apparently witnessed mechanics fighting about this.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on all of this?
Well, first of all, I mean, all you wrestling types, me and my buddy Adi Shankar were trying to tell you guys about this Cody Rhodes thing years ago. None of you listened. But here we are now. I think I wrote in and I talked to Matt about this when it happened, that what I saw from The Rock was what I would call a heel turn distraction. Everybody's doing everything so we can get into that account and Kanto space where we do not talk about Vincent. Oh no. So it worked.
So that is one thing, is that there is some debate about when this was actually planned and how far back did this plan really go, because the timing worked perfectly. The same week where all of the Vince stuff starts to blow up, here comes The Rock to join the TKO board of directors. And then a week later, it's let's try to divert all of the discussion away from the big Vince scandal, which isn't going anywhere, by the way, guys. And we're going to keep talking about it if more developments happen. But it was able to suck the oxygen out of that conversation and put it over into this one.
Yeah, and that's what people are doing in the streets. They're not talking about Vince McMahon. They're talking about this. The thing, I've actually thought The Rock should come back and do some wrestling for a long time. But I think where The Rock is now and what would be good for The Rock, and I think surprisingly and fun for the fans, is for The Rock to end up doing the one thing that nobody would ever expect The Rock to do, which is to have a humble ego in this. Take a fall, get knocked out, be some surprise knockoff, that leads and sets up this match in a more exciting way. Like, do that kind of, take that Ric Flair thing. And I'm sorry, I was watching that Netflix documentary this week, so it's just stuck in my head right now. The 30 for 30. Do that Ric Flair thing, be the sacrificial guy who sets up the other people. Nobody would expect that from The Rock. Rock is like, what we think about The Rock right now is not the greatest look after the Black Adam stuff. Is like, he's in his ego era.
Yeah.
Like, and people are criticizing him and saying that. And that whole Pat McAfee thing was like, yeah, that was The Rock and every kind of negative impression we have of him right now. So if he does something and lays down and rolls out of the way or gets slammed out of the way and makes way to set that match up to be even bigger, that would be something I would be surprised from The Rock. And I think that would be a surprising twist in this whole thing.
So you think he's deliberately playing into the public perception after the fallout of Black Adam and turning it into this, where it's like, yeah, I am the Hollywood corporate type that is coming in trying to throw my weight around and lose as a result.
I think it would be smart if WWE did something like that. I think everybody needs to get more dangerous in media these days. I think Marvel needs to surprise kill somebody. I think that The Rock kind of getting knocked off and doing that would shock people. It would. Like, it would be visibly upsetting to wrestling fans to see that. And to see somebody like Cody, and it would kind of pump Cody up to be more of a villainous status, or Roman, whoever it is that would come in and handle it, or if they just both turn on him or something like that.
It's tricky because the way it ended with Rock and Roman, who we thought was going to be this big power struggle for control of their own family, walking together in unison. Like they're on the same side right now, to where you go, are we setting up a tag team match?
And that's been in the comments, that we could be getting a tag team match. There could be something bigger than that, where all of them are involved.
Which isn't a bad idea for two reasons. One, they did call back at the start of the press conference. The very first WrestleMania was headlined by a tag team match. That in itself is okay. And you've got Seth, who, poor guy, bad back. He's got a torn MCL and partially torn meniscus. Maybe it's the other way around. Point is, one of his knees is gone, but he's still trying to power through and get to this main event match. And The Rock, bless him, dude's 51, and a couple of weeks ago, he got into the ring to do one people's elbow and looked blowed up, which is a wrestling term for way too exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, when you're up there with Snoop Dogg's people elbow, that's not good. When you're starting to look more like Snoop than The Rock.
And that was impromptu. So that's kudos to Snoop on that one.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I love Snoop wrestling. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love that stuff. But I think
But if I had
there's a lot of ways you could do this. You could do a tag team match. You could do a tag team match where there's a betrayal, where Cody and Roman end up fighting together. Then you have a new storyline where they have an uneasy alliance that eventually collapses anyway and results in them still. Because that thing with them is still a thing we get to, I feel like. It's just wrestling. There'll be a lot of twists and turns before the obvious thing to give fans what they want.
So I thought maybe triple threat, maybe fatal four-way, because the problem with Seth now is that he is way too intertwined in this to just now go off and do something with Drew and Sami Zayn in a match based around Raw guys. He's kind of loped into this now to where he's got to be involved somehow. So here's my idea. I want them to pull a Vengeance 2001. And if you're a wrestling fan from the Attitude Era, you know what I'm about to reference. Rock versus Roman, night 1 for the Universal Championship. Elsewhere on the same night, Cody versus Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship. The winners of those two matches meet in the main event of night 2, all the belts.
I like it. I dig it. That's a good storyline to keep us propelled through WrestleMania. Yeah, I'm good. I know people have gotten upset, but, just remember, this is getting upset for a reason. We're supposed to get upset. And it certainly worked. Yeah, the streets are out here talking about wrestling in a way I have not seen in a long time. Yeah, I was just at Valvoline get my oil changed, and that whole garage was arguing about whether Cody is getting screwed and is this the match we want to see. So hopefully they do big numbers. But I get why The Rock is coming back in behind the scenes. There is a concerted effort from that whole 2000s generation of WWE wrestlers who are now like in executive positions and stuff to secure the future of this business and kind of get it into their hands fully. And I'm not surprised to see The Rock kind of hovering around for that. So we'll see. All I know is all of a sudden, WrestleMania has become a much bigger watch event than it was just 7 days ago.
Yeah.
So don't talk about any of the Vince stuff. Just talk about this. Don't look over there. Don't you look over there.
But still talk about the Vince stuff. It's a federal case. This should be important.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I made the mistake after our last show where Connor had a very excellent breakdown about that whole situation. I made the mistake of going on Reddit and looking at it. And now my soul is never the same. So, yeah.
Oh, and that's also why Brock Lesnar isn't here anymore.
Oh, yeah. That got sad.
So for the folks in the I don't see anybody in the comments doing it, but I've seen it on Twitter. For the folks who are arguing this was always the plan, Seth was supposed to fight Punk. Punk got hurt. Brock was supposed to have a prominent match, and he's persona non grata right now. So if you're telling me that this was all the plan from, say, January 1st, you're lying.
No, but what I did come out of this wondering, and this is my final thought, is this was put together in like the scale of what they put together. Does WWE have like an emergency breaking glass protocol for something like this? That it is like Rock has a secret WWE bat phone and they're just like, Epsilon Alpha, it's time. And you're like, oh boy.
I mean, they've always got backup plans. And honestly, some of the best stuff in wrestling is when their number one option gets taken off the board and they got to figure out something else. Stone Cold Steve Austin does not become the star he is if certain things didn't happen right before to where suddenly they had to start relying on new people.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to find out. And you can be sure we are going to be all over this wrestling coverage because we have been since the beginning. That'll do it for this show. This is our regular live show of Comic Book Nation, the show that does it all for geek culture. As we said at the start, we are an entire nation of podcasts, subjects, conversations, and highlights. This week alone, we have put out the pull list, our comic-focused segment where we talk about the biggest comic book events of the week. Used to be on this live show, but now it had to become its own thing. We have no less than 3 of our new quick save gaming segments. One that is breaking down the crazy deal between Disney and Epic Games for a Disney Fortnite universe, which is going to be a game changer in a big way. And 2 episodes, each recapping in full spoiler details the first 2 episodes of Halo Season 2. Plus the live show. Plus people now in the hallway talking about something. We're going to get out of here. This is Comic Book Nation, the only show that doesn't for geek culture. Peace.
Later.